Okay, thanks.
All right, I got it. Let me make sure I'm not on mute.
Okay.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Lamed Ches. Good morning. Maseches Nedarim. So yesterday we were discussing. We got on to the Mishnah mentioned getting Hana from others and whether they can learn Torah from them, and then we were mechalik between different types of Torah and perhaps what can only be taught b'chinam. And then we saw that we had a list of a couple items which were halacha l'Moshe or for Moshe Sinai as to how to read certain psukim. So we're going to continue with that. 3 lines from the top on Lamed Ches and Aleph, and away we go. Amar Rav Acha bar Ada b'Ma'arova in Eretz Yisrael psakim lahadim psuka plus a psukim. The following pasuk was basically divided and explained into 3 psukim. Let me just find the hay down here. Second. I can't even find it here. All right. So it says over there, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe hinei anochi ba'elecha b'av ha'anan. And the entire pasuk is right, as Azik thinks, right? And it says, "V'yom Hashem al Moshe hinei anochi ba'elecha b'av ha'anan." Basically, period. They divided there. So they said before he goes in the cloud, and then it says Bavur. Bavur is really like another pasuk, even though it's what we have it as one pasuk. It's another pasuk. Bavur Yishma b'divrei b'dabri imach. Or another right division. So they speaking of dividing up the psukim. So this is an example of what they did in Excel, how they learned this pasuk. And Rav Chanina, so Moshe Rabbeinu became a very wealthy man, and that was just from the psulos of the luchos, from the carvings, right? That which came off, off the I guess was chiseled off the stone, the valuable stone. So that gave Moshe Rabbeinu much wealth. And as the pasuk says, psalacha. Right, so it says over there. Go ahead and psalacha. I guess. What was that? All right. Is it psal or psal?
Was it made out of gold or?
It's written with how much, but it's
And this is from the like we read on when the time says okay. All right. So he says over here psalacha. So it says psalacha. Shnei luchos avanim perishanim. So psalacha and shacha says psalacha. It should be to you. In other words, you the one after you carve it. You the one who keeps it. Shacha. And I'm Rabbi Yisrael Chanina, ladies, when the Torah was originally given, it was only given to Moshe Rabbeinu and his descendants. The pasuk says, just like we said, the psulasan of the luchos belong to you. Aksav and shecha, so to the writing and the giving of the Torah is only to you. However, Moshe Nagba Tavas Ayim and Asli Yisrael. However, Moshe Rabbeinu he acted generously and gave it over to Bnei Yisrael. They'll love a cousin about him. The pasuk says, "Aymir Tayv Ayin Hu Yivurach V'chulei." So it says right that he had a good ayin. Obviously, he had Tavas Ayin. He was generous that he gave over that which he was given it as a gift. He gave over to Bnei Yisrael.
Amen.
So we said, so we asked a question what we said yesterday. The pasuk over there, we brought this yesterday. So we brought this pasuk yesterday, right? We brought it as a proof. Anymore, the proof was that he was given to him, and then he taught right? That he was basically taught by Hashem, that he was commanded to teach them. So you see that Moshe Rabbeinu was commanded to go ahead. So no. No, it's only yes, Moshe Rabbeinu was taught from Hashem. However, he was taught only for himself, and he himself was the one who basically decided to go ahead and teach Bnei Yisrael. And similarly, the next passage we brought over there is Rei Lamati Eschem Chukim Mishpatim Kasher Tzivani Hashem Elokai. So you see over there that he taught them over the different Chukim Mishpatim as he was commanded to do. So he says, no, he was commanded to learn and not to teach it, but he was taught it over from Hashem, and then he taught it over them. Another kasha, the pasuk says, right? So it says, so you guys write over, plural. In other words, this Shira by Hazinu should be written for all of you, not just Moshe Rabbeinu and his family, but even Bnei Israel. So Hashir L'chuda, so maybe it's just the Shira. Laman Tieli Hashira Hazais Bnei Israel. So this should be the 8, right? So he says that if you guys, are rebel against Hashem, so this will basically be your testimony for you. So we see that Hashem's intentions, right, was for this to be the 8. So we see that they were commanded in all the Torah if they rebelled against it. So this Shira would be like the witness that they were commanded in all the Torah. So you see they were commanded in all the Torah. So then, what was the difference between that which Moshe Rabbeinu was taught? Which part? Yeah,
many times it says in
right. So Ella, so I guess the Gemara would get to that point. So, but the Gemara now pivots and says, rather Ella pilpuluz pipula bialma. Rather, yes, no. The Torah was supposed to be, in fact, transmitted to Moshe Rabbeinu and supposed to transmit to Bnei Yisrael. However, the pilpul, right, the actual learning of it, the darshaning of it, that necessarily didn't have to go to Bnei Yisrael. That was Moshe Lazaro. And at that, Moshe Rabbeinu also taught all of the pilpula of the Torah to Bnei Yisrael. And Amar Rabbi Yechon HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'shar Shechina al Gibor v'Asher v'Chacham v'Yanav. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't allow the Shechina to reside, right, unless with someone, right, referring basically like Navim, someone who is a Gibor, right, is a warrior, strong, Yasher, and wealthy, and wise, and humble. And all of them we learn from Moshe. So Gibor, he was a Gibor. The process of Vayfros, right? Excuse me. He spread the oil, right? The curtains. He spread them above, upon the Mishka. And Moshe Rabbeinu parsa. He was the one who spread it. Right? Each keresh was 10 amos. Right, I don't know, 15 feet. And so imagine this huge thing, and he was by himself, went ahead and spread it. So he must have been, right, very large and strong in order to be able to physically do that. So maybe he was very tall, right? But who says he was strong? Salamina din from this Minadin for this pasuk. The pasuk says that was b'shnei luchos v'ashlichem me'al shtei yadai v'ashberei. So he says that I guess he grabbed the two luchos and he sent them, he threw them from and he broke them. So he was able to go ahead and pick up and throw these heavy stones. The time learned in Bryce, haluchos archad shisha v'rachvan shisha v'avian shleisha. So the luchos, right? They were basically, this is 6 by 6, but there's the two luchos together, right? But it was 6. What's it called? Tvachim, 6 tvachim wide, right? 6 tvachim height. And 6 of them, the wide was the 2 of them together, and the thickness was 3. So 6 by 6 by 3 is very heavy stone, and nevertheless he was able to pick it up and throw it. So he must have been very strong, a gibor. And next one, so we say over there, Asher. So it says, Psolucha, Psulas and Shachaya, should belong to you. And Chacham, so Rabbi Shmuel, Demer Tavai, it says, Chamishim Sha'are, Bina Nivra Eilam, Bekulam Nasalam Moshe Chaser Achas, right? There were 50, right, gates of Bina, of understanding that were created into the world, and all that were given to Moshe, except for one of them, Shinamar Pasuk says, V'tachsarehu me'at me'elakim ana me'elakim. So the pasuk over there says, right, and so I guess he was in that amount that he was, so lacking, right, a little bit, right, from Hashem. In other words, that he was given all of it chaser, a little bit of chachma and anav. And where do you see anav? Dechsi v'aish Moshe anav ma'od. The pasuk says he was anav ma'od. He was very humble. And Amar Rabbi Yechanan, first of the medium lines. Amar Rabbi Yechanan calling Nevim, Ashirim hayu, all the Nevim were wealthy. Hayu minalam, where do you know that from? Moshe, Shmuel, Me'amos, Meyonah. So we know from these 4 Nevim So Moshe dechsiv lo chomer echad me'av nasati. So he says, I didn't take one donkey. Now, Iblo Agra, if he said he didn't take any, or not even one donkey from you guys, he's saying, I didn't pay, I didn't take a donkey without paying. So that Fukiman, the Shakablo Agra, what he comes to do is like, so someone who's not a thief, of course, why would you take one without paying for it? So Allah, the Afikablo Agra, right? He says, I didn't take a donkey from him, even for payment, right? And what do you mean? Because he had so many, he had no need for it. He had his own. So, we'll come back to the Luchos, right? But over there he was very wealthy. So the Gemara says, "Dilma Mishum Dani." I have it. I'm sorry. Yeah.
He had a PhD.
Rabbi Eugene, one of his favorite jokes were that no, they used to say he had 7 daughters, and he's also known he had 7 names. Yisro. He had 7 daughters. They also had 7 names. So each time he made a wedding, he had a bankruptcy, so he had to change his name. That was like his joke. So I don't know if he was wealthy.
Right. You guys knew Rabbi Eugene.
Yeah, that was like his. He
He's
didn't
not
do
even a
that. Yeah,
serious guy.
right. So where it says maybe it was because he didn't take it because he couldn't even afford to buy a donkey. So Ella mean Psalacha, right for the pasuk brought up. Psalacha Psulasan, yeah, Shalcha should belong to you. Shmuel and what Shmuel the pasuk says, Hineni anu bi neged Hashem, the neged b'shicho eshor milakachti v'chamar milakachti. So it says over there that he was neged Hashem. So he says, I didn't take an ox. I didn't take a chamor. So what does it mean he didn't take? So it's a e b'chinam. If we're talking about he didn't take one without paying, lefukiman. What the shaka b'chinam? Right? Someone would take it. Oh, the afilu b'schar. Even he would pay for it. So why did he not do it? Because he didn't need to. Because he had a very very wealthy. So one says no. Do modani habi. Maybe because he didn't have it because he was poor. Over here the pasuk says. Chuvaso haramasa ki sham beso. So it says there when he returned to his home because that kisham beso. So he would go around throughout the year to judge and return back home annually. So what do we see from the pasuk? The pasuk means that any place he went was beso. In other words, basically he had a house in all these different locations with all the furnishings and everything. Yeah. Amar Rava Gadol Mashnamar B'Shmuel Yosem Mishnamar Moshe. It appears even a greater statement by Shmuel, right? Those who we deflected both these psukim. More than says that Moshe Dilu Moshe Rabbeinu Ksiv. It says that Eloi Chamar Echad Mehem Nasati. I didn't go ahead, right, and use a chamar from you. Dafila B'Schar, right? Even if I forced you to go ahead and give it to me and give you money, Shmuel says Dafila B'Ratza. Even though they wanted to go ahead. And rented the Chassid of the pasuk says, "Vayomru loy ashkatinu v'loy ashkatanu v'loy ritzasanu." So the pasuk over there says that right, you haven't stolen from us, right? You haven't take anything without a ratzon. In other words, they wanted him to go ahead and purchase from them. Nevertheless, that was not done. And Amos Tichsiv Vayan Amos Vayomer. So he says that he answered and he says, "Vayomer el Amatzia lo novi anochi lo ben novi anochi ki vaikir anochi uboles shikmim." So it says over there. So he says, "No, I'm not a novi, right? I'm just a biker, and I look after shikmim, right? Different types of trees, sycamore trees, right?" So the targum Rabbi Yosef, Ari Mara Gezi Ana the shikmin li. So he says no, because he owns cows, he owns cattle, right? He owns bakar, and he owns these trees, these orchards. So you see that he had a vast amount of real estate. So that's what we see from Amos. And by Yonah, the Chassid pasuk says, "Vayitain sachar v'yared ba." So he gave the schar, right, the payment for it. So Amar. Rabbi Yechanan Shenazin Schar Shel Sfina Kula that he gave, right? There was the entire payment for the boat, right? He was the first one, right? He chartered, right? So he was the original to instead of charter flights, he chartered a yacht. He paid for the entire boat. And Amar Rabbi Ramna Schar Shel Sfina Havi Dalad Alafim Dinar Dahab. So it was 4,000 dinarim, golden dinarim, very large amount. And nevertheless, Yonah was able to go ahead and pay. So in the beginning, Moshe Rabbeinu would learn when he was given the original, and he would forget it until he was given it as a matana. He was given the gift that he should remember it. So it says over there that in the end, right, when he finished speaking with him, and I was at that point, basically he gave over as a matana, right, to go ahead, and therefore he was able to go ahead and remember the Torah and not forget it. Mishnah. Two lines from the bottom. So he says, one is Meider Hanome Chavero. Guy says, I will not go ahead. Alan Gershman, you're my guy today. So I said, so let's say I make another not to go ahead, and Alan cannot benefit from me. Nevertheless, I can go ahead. I can go ahead and I can feed his wife. I could give her sustenance, Vesbanav, and his children. And even though he's obligated to go ahead and support his wife, so since he's really not benefiting from me directly, it's more of an indirect. So therefore, it's permissible for me to go ahead and support his wife and or children. However, I can't go ahead and but I can't go ahead and feed your animals, right? I feed your animals. I start, even though yes, they're eating and you save it directly, but by them eating, they become fatter and larger and they become more valuable. So therefore, he is really directly benefiting from my feeding the animals. However, if it's a tameya, it's a non-kosher animal, so you can't. There's no meat, you can't eat it. So therefore, he doesn't really benefit. But the Torah, a kosher animal, that I can't go ahead and feed. So ma bein tameya tahira. So what's the difference between tameya and tahira? Samarlo shatayra nafshal l'shamayim v'kufa shalo. So the tahira, when it's alive, right? You can't do anything with it. It belongs to Hashem, right? You can't eat it while it's alive, but once it's dead, it belongs to him. So it belongs to Alan. So therefore, if I go ahead and fan it, so of course, Tmeya, however, Tmeya, Nafsha, both of them, right? Alan can go ahead and really benefit directly. Even the Tmeya, right? While it's alive, it's Hashem's, right? But when it's, its body is really his. Because if you want, you can go ahead and sell to Goyim, or sell it, or feed it, to his other animals, and therefore he can go ahead and benefit. Fine. Zak the Gemara. Amarav Yitzchak bar Chananya Amarav Huna Hamuder Hana Mechavero Muder Lahasi Lo Bito. One is Muder Hana from his friend, right? Alan, I'm still using you. So then is Muder to go ahead and marry his daughter. So the Gemara is a little vague. Huh?
Friends, so.
Yeah. So he's mutter to go ahead and marry his daughter. Now, so Havi Rab Zerab, Mayaskinan. So who's marrying whose daughter here? Right. So I make a nether that I will not benefit from Alan. All right. Let's say it. I will not benefit from Alan. I want nothing to do with you. Now, if we're talking about the nechasim, right, of the father is Aser ala Chasan. And all right, so let's say I don't want to get any enough from Alan, and therefore I can't get, and Alan is going to go ahead and marry his daughter off to me, right? When you marry your daughter off, right, you give her the maidservants and all that, so I'm going to be benefiting from you. You're giving, me your daughter marriage, which comes from shivchas and other things. You're giving those items directly to me. So Allah. Rather, what are we saying over here? Maybe we're saying that it's the opposite. Maybe so let's say, right, I don't want anything from Alan. Alan wants to marry my daughter. All right. So Asura obvious. So maybe you want to marry my daughter. So, and then nevertheless, you're allowed to marry her, right? In this case.
So you're not getting enough from me.
Right. I'm not getting enough from you. Right? What hana am I getting from you? You're marrying my daughter, right? So that's the case. So I understand. Right? What are you telling me? You can marry my daughter, right? We just said before that you're allowed to feed my wife. You're allowed to feed my children. Why wouldn't you be able to? There's no chiddush in saying you can marry my daughter, right? What hana am I directly getting from you? Right? Even though you can go ahead and feed my wife, my children, even though I'm obligated to the mezainas, and now you're telling me it's motu la'asi las bita, you can be right daughter. There's no chiddush there. So the Gemara answers no. Li'elam shenichse avi kala asur al chasim. The nechasim of the father are asur al chasim. So in other words, really, I can't get a hana from you, and I'm marrying your daughter. And now, in the case over there, when he gives it over, bita bageres umidaita. We're talking about over here that the reason why me taking your daughter, I'm not getting any hana from you. If it was you owned your daughter and she was a katana or a nara, and you're giving me over, so therefore you're like your property. You're giving me over items. But over here, if she's already a bulgaris, she's her own person, and therefore that I'm marrying her. I get any benefit from her. I'm not getting benefit from you. But we learn the asalasi is bito. He can't go ahead and marry his daughter. Avamasia bito bageres knows he can't marry his daughter. Meaning the daughter was a katana. But you could go ahead. Avamasia bito bageres if he died. I could go ahead and then one could go ahead and marry the daughter if she is already above the age of 12 and a half. And it's midaita, and therefore he's not directly benefiting from the father-in-law. He's only benefiting from his, by the transaction with his wife. And now Rabbi Yaakov Hamadir b'nai l'Talmud Torah. One who goes ahead and says, you know what? I don't want to go ahead and take you away from your studies of Talmud Torah. I'm not going to benefit from you. In other words, therefore, you don't have to go ahead and serve me. You don't have to worry about kibbut av. You can go ahead and go to your limudim. Mutar l'balas lechavi shomra. And do the small favor of filling up a barrel for him. In other words, he only referred to items that are long, cook me an entire dinner. But just to go ahead and fill up the water jug for me, that's not a big deal. That really doesn't take away from the studies. That was never intended in that nether. Or the halik noyas on there. And also to go ahead and light, the candle, fill up with oil. That's also something which is minor, which was never the intentions of the Baal nether. And Rabbi Yitzchak Lamar, let's cut and also go ahead and cook a small fish. It takes a very short time. It's not a big deal. So therefore, since it's not a big deal, it's not it takes too much time. Therefore, it was mutter. And Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, Rabbi Yechanan, Hamuder Hanam Mechavero mutter lashkaiso kaisel shal. One that says I'm not going to go ahead and get any hana from his friend. Nevertheless, he can still go ahead and get a cup from his friend. So mutter lashkaiso kaisel shal. He's allowed to get a kos shel shalom from his friend. That's not considered to be getting hana from your friend. So mind me, what does it mean kos shel shalom? So achar tagima kos shel beis avel. Right, that's referring to the kos that's drank in the beis avel. Is that during the Suda? Yeah, Suda Abra. So after they come back the 7th day, they have a Suda, and also is the kos of beis avel. The Marava Amri, they say kos shel beis amerchatz. I guess that's the cup of, I guess, the drink after one goes to the schwitz to rehydrate. Thank you.
It's the electrolytes in
it. Thank you. A person cannot go ahead. If he says, I'm not going to get help from that person, he can't go ahead and have his cows fanned by him. So Tanya Shua Ish Uza Aymar Zon Avdav V'Shivchosav HaKnanim. You can go ahead and feed his slaves. You can feed his slaves because it's indirect hana. You can't feed his animals because the animals, if you fan them, you're increasing their value. And why is it you can go ahead and feed the slaves? Maybe the slaves, are getting bigger and stronger, more valuable. It's my time. Right? They are made for basically piercing. In other words, an owner is not, sometimes we'll just, throw away animals. They don't mean that much to him. So too, right? Avadim shivchas, they're not as valuable to him. And if he writes one off, It's not a big deal. So he doesn't really care if they're fattened, if they're healthy, or if they're not, because, they write him off many times. And therefore he doesn't really, care about the size of Avadim. And therefore he's not directly benefiting. However, right? But animals are made for fanning. That's the purpose of it, to fan them up. So therefore, if you do go ahead and fan them, it's a direct hana, and therefore one is not allowed to go ahead. And if he's mudar namechavero, not allowed to go ahead and feed his animals. All right, we'll stop here at the Mishnah.
Why didn't you say that based on?
But the Gemara is part of the Mishnah, so it's like.
Why can't you say this?